Sailing south in Antarctic waters, it's always exciting when you get your first glimpse of an iceberg. They start out as grey, indistinct shapes somewhere on the horizon. But soon they begin to resolve themselves into real icebergs. There are the classic bergs that look like floating islands. And there are the great, massive, tabular bergs with their distinctive flat tops. Whatever their shape, you begin to realise that their massive size can make them a real hazard to shipping. Viewed from the ship, they can look like miniature fantastic landscapes all of their own. Even when viewed from shore, they're still very impressive. And they are always stunningly beautiful. As you see them floating by, you're impressed not only by their shape, but also by their stunningly beautiful and ever-changing colour. Even as they disintegrate and break up, they can still leave the most startling shapes in the water. Icebergs are of course formed when large pieces fall off a glacier as it meets the sea. There is always the danger of sea ice, called brash ice, forming around the ship. It's easy to tell just by looking the age of the ice. When the ice is young or recently formed, it's very cloudy with lots of air bubbles in it. As new ice is formed above it, so the pressure increases, gradually forcing out the air bubbles. The very old ice looks like crystal or cut glass, with no air bubbles in it at all. On land, the ice forms glaciers, which are rivers of ice that flow down to the sea. Sometimes, however, the glaciers don't get all the way to the sea and they stop short on land, and you can see them quietly melting into the stone. As the glaciers flow down the valleys, they drag with them large rocks and boulders which they deposit as a terminal moraine. Some of these boulders are huge. There's no way to judge scale, but this one is about as tall as I am. The penguins love to use these rocky outcrops as nesting places. Where the glaciers do meet the sea, they form majestic ice cliffs. You can, of course, walk on the glacier, which is always rewarding as the ice is never featureless and it affords some spectacular views. Large parts of the South Shetland Islands and the Antarctic Peninsula itself are still volcanically active. The resulting volcanic ash can have some strange effects, like turning the ice black. This exposed cliff face, which looks like slate, is in fact an entire glacier made out of black ice. And this is all that remains of an Antarctic base that was covered by ash from an eruption on Deception Island in 1970. The continuing volcanic action on Deception Island means that at Pendulum Cove the sand is warm and the Antarctic Ocean is warm enough to go swimming. However, it's only the first couple of feet of the water that's warm. Once you get away from the beach, it quickly drops to Antarctic temperatures, and the air temperature and the wind chill make it feel really cold when you emerge. But the thing that I will always remember about Antarctic ice is that it's never the same, it's never uniform. There are always new and spectacular shapes to see. And the most amazing colours. This blue you can see is not the result of any photographic trickery. It's caused by old ice that's been under tremendous pressure. There are spectacular ice cliffs left over from when huge pieces of ice have fallen off the edge of the glacier into the sea to make icebergs. Strange shaped pieces that float in the bays, each one with its own unique and distinct form and shape, with colours that range from white through green to the deepest blue. Ice sculptures that had been carved by nature using wind and waves. Ice that had been affected in its form and colour by the action of the local wildlife. But I think what had the greatest effect on me was the combination of the water, the ice, and the light. Sometimes it seemed that the whole landscape had only been produced using shades of grey. It was like looking at another world, something from Tolkien or the Nordic sagas. At other times there were reds and pinks that seemed to give everything a Martian quality. Whether the colour palette was shades of blue, or white, greens, blacks and shadows, whether the ice was on land as a majestic glacier sweeping down to the sea, or beautiful, graceful, ethereal icebergs floating by like majestic palaces. I don't think that I'll ever be able to feel quite the same way about ice ever again. I'll never be able to think of it as just ice.